everyone, welcome back to the Critic-Verse. Today we're going to continue the Season 3 catch-up, recap, and review of Warrior with Season 3, Episode 3, titled No Time for Chemistry. Now, before we get to the review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep updated on all things Critic-Verse. Now, let's get to the video. The episode is titled No Time for Chemistry. This line is used in a literal sense when Agent Mosley and the newly deputized Agent Lee instructs the Chinatown squad on how to inspect for counterfeit bills, and one of the officers gets frustrated, especially because he doesn't like Lee. But the title also has a figurative meaning when viewing the growing chemistry between Sahm and the printer Yan Mi, but also the situation between Nellie Atoy and Douglas Strickland reaching its boiling point. The episode starts with Sahm, Youngjun, Hong, and Chow heading to meet with Happy Jack and put the fake Chop to the test by finally buying the molasses from Jack. The meeting with Jack goes about as well as can be expected. The counterfeit passes inspection and they get their product. Jack does question, however, why Chow is there, but Chow passes his involvement off as Chow making an investment, which Happy Jack does make a joke about. Douglas Strickland returns to Nellie's vineyard to see if she reconsidered his offer and throws the insinuation that the others might consider her vineyard a brothel, given the fact that all the girls that worked there were formal brothel workers, and then throws out her relationship with Atoy, which she then tells him to leave afterwards. Next, Abigail is trying to understand the deal Agent Mosley gave Lee and jokes how good it is to be a white man, considering that Lee wouldn't have gotten that deal if he was any other race. But then Lee wants to take the deal because in theory it'll make their lives easier. Mai Ling discusses the recent attack on Kong Pak and Lee Young with the elders, and Kong Pak reassures them that the remainder of the three brothers' Tong will fall in line. Next, Lee Young is concerned with all the time Mai Ling is spending in the pond, to which she assures him that this is a calculated move and that would be easier if she goes alone, because unlike her, Lee Young can't assimilate as well. Agent Mosley brings Lee back to the police station and introduces him to the new chief, who isn't pleased by Lee's reputation. Then Lee is leading the briefing to the Chinatown squad on how to spot fake bills, and apparently Lee is still good at making friends. But also, this is the scene where the episode title is said. Bill is upset with Lee for telling him that he wasn't coming back, yet here he is. But Lee reassures him that it's only for the deal that he made with Mosley. Lee wants to question Chow, and when Bill wants to come along, Lee shoots that down. Next, Sahm brings Yan Mi more supplies. Sahm responds with a snark after Yan Mi is cold to him. When Sahm tries to reassure her of her safety, she responds with her father was beaten by the Hop Wei the first time he missed a payment. Then Sahm apologizes on their behalf. Mai Ling attends a duck event when Eliza tries to make conversation on one of the art pieces. Realizing Mai Ling can relate to the piece, she feels embarrassed by coming off as a snob, but Mai Ling calms her down with a joke. Mai Ling feels the stare of many on her and is introduced to Eliza's husband, Bernard, who works for the Bank of San Francisco as an investment banker. After a toast, Mai Ling catches sight of Buckley and toasts him as well, kind of a aha moment to Buckley. Buckley has another run-in with Catherine Archer that feels calculated, at least on her part. She wonders why Buckley hasn't called her yet, and after stroking his ego, she retires and advises Buckley to call her. Buckley's campaign manager bribes a reporter to run with a story about the brother-in-law of Buckley's opponent to discredit him, but with very little proof. Douglas Strickland comes face to face with Dylan Leary as he's the man that Leary was sent to confront and intimidate. And it turns out he knows all about Leary and that Douglas actually rolls deep and comes with 3 bodyguards. But he invites Leary to have a chat. Later, Sahm is practicing with not 1, but 2 nunchucks. A regular Michelangelo right here. When Yan Mi walks in to let him know that she's done for the day. But he has to pat her down before she leaves, and there's definitely sexual tension between them, and Yan Mi makes a joke about Sahm playing with his wood, and he does feel like slightly awkward and embarrassed when he realizes that she just meant the nunchucks, but it can be interpreted another way. Douglas and Leary at Douglas's home talk, and they find common ground in that they fought in the Civil War and also bond over what it's like to lose a child. Douglas lost his son in the war, and Leary lost his 2 boys coming back from the war. Douglas tells Leary that he can be more and accomplish more by gaining political capital, or he'll accomplish nothing just being a hired thug for these rich fat cats. Young-Jun is making a speech to his men at a Toys and starts making it rain counterfeit bills, but this displeases Sahm. When Sahm asks Sahm expresses his dissatisfaction with the use of the fake chop, and Chow lets them know that Mai Ling has assimilated another Tong, and they better be quick, because Mai Ling, unfortunately, isn't feeling the heat like the rest of Chinatown. Lee returns to Chinatown to ask Chow questions and ask him about the counterfeits, and when he tries to flip Chow, Chow rebuffs him and advises him to leave. Unbeknownst to Chow, or at least at first glance, Agent Mosley is following him through Chinatown, but loses him shortly after in a laundry service. Chow comes out, showing he purposely gave Agent Mosley the slip. Sahm is confronted by Long Z hatchet men, and it turns out he's in their territory. But it's actually the same guy from episode 1. Kind of a flip side where Sam's on their territory instead of the other way around. And he's still got bruises from that fight. And as they're about to fight, Mai Ling steps in. Sahm and Mai Ling talk for the first time in a while, and you can really feel the sibling energy as every response just feels petty and childish with each other. Sahm figures out Mai Ling has some deal keeping the bulls out of her territory and warns her it'll backfire sooner or later. Mai Ling fires back that Young-Jun is gonna ruin the Tong before she'll even have a chance to. But Sahm doesn't have to go down with him, subtly suggesting he join the Long Z, but he declines. Back on the vineyard, Atoy and Nellie discuss Douglas and his connection to Nellie's dead husband, how he used to want her as well, but Atoy is worried about if Douglas can actually take the land. Nellie reassures her, and Atoy makes a joke about the good-looking babies Nellie and Douglas would make, while still being worried behind her back. Later, Sahm sees Young-Jun handing out more bills, this time to regular people, and when questioned about his recklessness, Young-Jun fires back, and it seems as he's about to act rash at Sahm calling him out. But he fires back with a reasonable explanation, explaining how his plan is expected to go, and it's fairly competent, so much so Sahm backs off, and Young-Jun advises Sahm to let him think of the bigger picture, although he doesn't really know what's coming. Sahm brings Yang Min some food and says she says the dumplings are terrible, and says They're only good if you grew up on a farm, which we know Sahm did. She goes for better food, and Sahm accompanies her. The restaurant puts on a puppet show for the kids, using Chinese shadow puppets, and Yan Mi explains the story to Sahm about why lightning comes before thunder. Sahm and Yang Mi have two different interpretations of the story. Sahm believes life is without choice, and Yan Mi believes that's just an excuse because he doesn't like where his choices has led him. Yan Mi notes that she saw Sam's actions during the Chinatown invasion and kind of romanticized him like he was some angel coming down to dispense justice, but quickly came back to reality when the next time she saw him was with Young Jun and they were coming to collect. Sahm apologizes for unknowingly letting her down. Hong returns to the gambling den from the previous episode to see Marcel, and Marcel notices this and starts to sing directly to Hong. The pair have sex and afterwards trade backstories. Hong has been in the Hop Way since he was 14 after his father kicked him out, probably because he was gay. And Marcel has been a traveling artist ever since his mother died and the person that she worked for had no use for him. Pierce comes to speak with Leary and ask if he got the job done, and Leary said it didn't go Pierce's way, and when he raises his voice, Leary stabs him with a fork and tells him to respect him in his bar. Pierce tries to get the assistance of a cop that was already there, not realizing here no one is on his side, and walks away with his tail between his legs. Sahm walks Yan Mi home and frisks her, and the tension between them is stronger as you can see Yan Mi actively closing the distance between them, but Sahm retracts. Yan Mi, back in her room, pulls out her hairpin to show a stash of money she's been hiding, and just know that this can go bad. Back at the vineyard, Nellie and Atoy are about to turn in when the fields start to go ablaze. Douglas has had his men set fires. Atoy cuts some down with a machete while Lai takes on some in the field with sickle size. Nellie gets in on the action with a shotgun but gets overpowered and gets saved by some of the girls. Atoy is struggling with her still healing injuries while still trying to hold her own and doing a pretty good job, even so, but eventually gets overpowered and Lai has to come to her aid, and after the fight comes to a standstill, the men retreat while they've already been victorious for a while, seeing as most of the field is burning. And the episode closes on that shot of the field ablaze. What a crazy episode. This was the last of the first 3 episodes that were dropped all at once for the premiere, and it's a hell of a cliffhanger to leave the audience with. Now, let's talk about a couple of things. The area where Happy Jack, Abigail Lee, and technically now Marcel reside in is called the Barbary Coast, known as sort of a red light district in San Francisco, and you can tell from the introduction it's given in this episode as we start off following a stumbling drunk. Apparently, Agent Mosley can just deputize Lee, giving him a similar amount of authority under him but over the San Francisco Police Department. There are 2 instances where a character's storyline kind of interjects into another character's storyline. Mai Ling, trying to infiltrate the duck world, runs into Buckley in broad daylight instead of in the back alley carriage meetings that they have, I should say. And Leary runs into Douglas Strickland, potentially causing a problem for Atoy and Nellie, because if he did get physical with Strickland and maybe have gotten him to back down, I doubt Pierce would have been able to cause as much damage as Douglas Strickland did to Nellie in Notoy's vineyard. The story being told with the Chinese shadow puppets was interesting, so I decided to look it up and notices there are a couple of discrepancies with the show's version to what you would find online. Online, Lei Gong wasn't just known as an angry god, but a god of justice and order. And the Jade Emperor tasked him with using his thunder against bad people. Only now, because he couldn't see, he accidentally struck Diamond, I believe. Don't really know how it's pronounced properly. I think Yan Mi says it better in the episode. Now, she was hurt for wasting food, but she actually threw that food in the river because it had gone bad. And Lei Gong struck her because he couldn't have seen that. But the story then goes the same way with her being resurrected and tasked with being the lightning to his thunder. And the show probably changed it a bit to make it parallel more with the relationship between Sahm and Yan Mi. It's also interesting that Yan Mi represents the first adult perspective on Sam's actions during this Chinatown invasion. Because to kids, they worship Sahm, but Yan expresses a similar sentiment until he came to collect with Young Jun. Alright, this was such a great episode. I can't wait to talk about episode 4. Thanks for joining me in the Critic-Verse. See you next time.